Everything you behold without, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. You are not a beggar in this world. You are not a seeker waiting for crumbs from the table of fate. You are not a creature of circumstance, but the creator of all you observe. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles is to live in the eternal truth of your being. And I am here to remind you what you dare to assume as true, that you become. That is the law. Let us begin not in some far-off land or some distant time, but here now. You are already the center of all creation. The miracle is not something that must come to you. The miracle is already present in the depth of your own consciousness, waiting only for your recognition, waiting only for your acceptance. When I speak of a miracle, I am not speaking of some act that defies natural law. No, the miracle is the most natural thing in the world when you understand who you are. It appears supernatural only to the one who is asleep. But to the awakened imagination, to the one who knows their true self, miracles are not the exception. They are the rule. Miracles are not withheld from you. You withhold them by the state of consciousness you occupy. If you would live as if you were a magnet to miracles, you must lift yourself into the state where miracles are natural. This is not done by effort or striving. This is done by assumption, by living from the end. Ask yourself, what would I feel like if I were already the one to whom miracles naturally flow? What would I think? How would I walk? How would I sleep at night? The great secret is this. You are always assuming. Every moment of your life, you are assuming something to be true about yourself, about the world. Most do it unconsciously. They assume lack, difficulty, distance. And so they live in a world of shadows, reflections of their inner poverty. But when you assume consciously, when you dare to believe that you are the one chosen, the one blessed, the one already possessing all that your heart desires, you awaken the law. You do not attract miracles by begging. You attract them by being. You do not chase blessings. You become the embodiment of blessing. And everything must come to you. Just as the magnet does not plead with the metal to come, it simply is what it is. And its nature draws all things unto itself. I ask you, what would happen if today you stopped waiting? If you stopped hoping, wishing, yearning, and instead began to assume, to act, to move, to breathe, as if you were already the miracle? Because you are. You were never meant to be a seeker. You were always meant to be a knower. Your imagination is the creative force of God Himself. There is no higher power than your own wonderful human imagination. That is the divine in you. That is the Christ. When you imagine, you are not daydreaming, you are fertilizing the womb of creation. What you accept as true in imagination, you give birth to in the world of form. You must learn to reject appearances, not in anger, not in resistance, but with quiet confidence. You must turn away from the news, the facts, the so-called reality that contradicts your desire. For it is all but a shadow, a projection of past assumptions. It is not real in the eternal sense. What is real is what you dare to claim in imagination. To live as a magnet to miracles is to live in the awareness that what you assume becomes, not might become, not could become, but becomes. So you imagine wealth, not because you are poor, but because wealth is your birthright. You imagine love, not because you are lonely, but because love is your essence. You imagine health, not to escape sickness, but because perfection is your true state. You do not imagine to fix. You imagine to reveal what has always been yours. Most pray in desperation. They beg the heavens for help, as if God were somewhere far away, weighing their merits. But God is within. He is dreaming your life into being through you. And the only way you commune with Him is through feeling, through imagination. I tell you, when you sit quietly and feel what it feels like to have your miracle, really feel it, not as a wish, but as a reality already assumed, you are aligning yourself with the law of being. You are sending out a signal not to the universe, but to yourself, to your own subconscious, that this is your truth. And your subconscious, being impersonal and faithful, will make it so. I knew a man who was desperate for healing. Doctors had given him no hope, but he would not accept their verdict. Every night before sleep, he imagined walking with strength, feeling the muscles in his legs, hearing his friends speak of how well he looked. He did not do it once. He did it nightly with feeling, with conviction. And one morning he rose with strength in his legs. The miracle had occurred. But it was not a miracle to him. It was the outpicturing of a new assumption. This is the key. Do not act as if you are asking, act as if you have already received. For he who has, to him more shall be given. Most people say, I will believe it when I see it. But I say to you, you will see it when you believe it. Your belief precedes your sight. Your assumption precedes your manifestation. Do not wait for signs to believe. Become the sign. Every miracle begins with an invisible cause, and that cause is always an inner state. So begin now, this very moment. Stop trying to make something happen. Stop wondering when or how. These questions are born of doubt. Simply move into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Ask yourself, if I were now the embodiment of my miracle, how would I live? You must not look to others for confirmation. They will tell you it's foolish to imagine. They will say it's delusional. But let me remind you, every great thing ever brought into this world began as a vision in one man's mind. Every temple, every invention, every work of art, every healing, every empire, began in the invisible realm of thought. You are the operant power. The law responds not to effort but to assumption. Your assumption, persistent in time, becomes your fact. So act as if you are the one to whom life always says yes. Assume that everything is working in your favor, even when appearances say otherwise. Especially when appearances say otherwise. Especially when appearances say otherwise. That is when your faith is tested. And that is when your faith becomes sight. This is not about positive thinking, it is about assuming the state. Thinking is mental. Assumption is spiritual. It is feeling. It is knowing. And that knowing bends reality to match its image. If you could but hold the feeling of your miracle, without doubt, without contradiction long enough, it must come. It has no choice. It is law, and the law is never broken. But it will not come to a man who doubts, who flits from one state to another, who is double-minded. You must choose this day whom you shall serve, the God of appearances or the God of imagination. When you walk through life as if everything is conspiring in your favor, you magnetize events, people, resources and situations to fulfill that belief. And they do not come from the outside. They rise from within, from the subconscious depths. For the world is yourself pushed out. This is the great secret of all ages. It has been hidden in plain sight. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and what you assume within becomes without. Your every assumption is a prayer. Your every belief, a command to your reality. So act as if you are loved, and you will be. Act as if you are wealthy, and you will be. Act as if you are healed, and you will be. But act not to get. Act because you already are. The difference is subtle but absolute. To want something is to affirm its absence. But to feel as if you already have it, is to affirm its presence. One creates delay. The other creates manifestation. What you dare to claim as true in the silence of your own soul, the world must mirror back to you. But do not look to time. Time is the servant of eternity. Do not wonder when your miracle will appear. It appears when you are ready, when your assumption is stable, unwavering. I urge you tonight, when you lie in bed, to close your eyes and imagine, not as an observer but as a participant. Enter the scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. Feel the emotions, hear the voices, see the colors. Make it real, so real, that when you open your eyes, you are surprised to find yourself here. That is the moment the seed is planted. In the days to come, do not dig up the seed. Do not ask, why hasn't it happened yet? Simply water it with faith, with repetition, with gratitude. And when it blooms it will seem as though it came from nowhere. But you will know. You will know that it came from within you. This is the life of a miracle magnet. Not one who waits for signs, but one who walks in the end, who lives from the wish fulfilled, who dares to believe, even in the face of contradiction. Let the others worry, fear, strive. Let them call it luck. You will know the truth. You are not lucky. You are aligned. You are not favored by chance. You are favored by your own assumption. Say to yourself daily, I am the magnet to all that is good. Miracles are natural to me. I live in the flow of divine abundance. I do not chase. I attract. I do not plead. I expect. I do not doubt. I know. And let this knowing become your walk, your speech, your breath. Let it enter your bones, until your very presence transforms rooms, shifts energies, opens doors, until others look upon you and say, "What is your secret?" You will smile not with pride, but with peace, for you will know. The secret is not in some distant star or external ritual. It is within you. It always has been. You are the miracle. You are the magnet. You are the operant power. So act as if, and watch the world rearrange itself to reflect the glory of your assumption. And so you rise not tomorrow, not when the conditions seem perfect, but now. You rise into the state of miracle consciousness and you remain there not as a discipline of effort, but as a devotion to your truth. You see, your outer world is not trying to punish or bless you. It is trying to reflect you. When you stand tall in the assumption that you are a divine being, worthy of all that is good, worthy of every miracle, you cease to beg for what you already are. Let others chase and strive. You simply become. You embody. You shift not through force but through faith. And faith is not passive, it is an inner knowing, a radical acceptance that what you imagine already is. When you feel it deeply, more deeply than the evidence of your senses, then you have found the secret of creation. You will notice it first in subtle ways: a conversation overheard, a chance encounter, a door that opens without effort. These are not coincidences. These are echoes of your inner shift. These are confirmations that the unseen is becoming seen, that the invisible assumption is crystallizing into fact. Do not be distracted by appearances that seem unchanged. They are only the residue of past assumptions. As you remain faithful to your new state, the old must dissolve. There may be resistance. There may be moments of doubt. But the law is unbreakable. What you assume with feeling persists until it hardens into fact. Your only task then is to persist in the feeling, not to force outcomes, not to manipulate circumstances, but to inhabit the state so completely, so sincerely, that the world has no choice but to bend to your assumption. Think of the magnet. It does not need to seek, beg, or chase. It simply is. Its nature is to draw, and what it draws is not random, but perfectly aligned with what it is. So it is with you. As you become the embodiment of your miracle, you draw unto you all things necessary for its fulfillment, not through struggle, but through vibration, through being. If you desire love, become love, speak love, think love, radiate love in every direction, not to receive it, but because it is who you are. If you desire wealth, embody wealth. Walk as one who is wealthy, not with arrogance, but with calm certainty. If you desire peace, become peace. If you desire health, live in the assumption of perfect wholeness. This is the mystery of the law. You do not create by wishing. You create by assuming. You do not manifest through action alone. Action is the echo. Imagination is the cause. And when your imagination aligns with your desire, miracles unfold, not as exceptions, but as expressions of your true nature. There will come a time when this feels so natural, so effortless, that you will wonder how you ever believed otherwise. You will laugh at the days you thought you had to earn your blessings. You will see that everything you needed was within you all along. And then the most beautiful shift occurs. You begin to live, not for outcomes but from essence. You cease to need validation, because you live in fullness. You are no longer trying to manifest from lack, but from love, from joy, from completeness. And this, my friend, is when the greatest miracles arrive, quietly, gently, abundantly. You become the miracle. And miracles flow to you like water to the sea. They come without fanfare, without noise, without the need to be noticed, because you no longer crave the proof. You no longer need the outside world to echo your worth because you have found it within. The miracle becomes your natural state, and your life transforms not with thunder and lightning, but with a whisper, a soft rearrangement, a divine unfolding. Those around you begin to notice. They sense something different in you, a calm power, a quiet confidence, a radiant ease. They may ask, "What have you done?" But how can you explain it to one who still believes in effort alone? You did not hustle. You did not beg. You did not fight the current. You simply remembered. You remembered that imagination creates reality. You remembered who you are. You may try to tell them, "I acted as if it were already mine." And they will say, "But that's not practical." And you will smile, knowing that practicality has never built miracles. Only vision has. You will tell them, "I stopped needing, and I started being. I stopped asking, and I started assuming. I stopped looking outside, and I turned within." When you say these things, some will understand, and others will not. But it doesn't matter, because you have tasted the truth. And once you've tasted it, you can never go back to the illusion of separation, to the false belief that you must earn your miracles. You now walk as the magnet. You now speak as the source. You now live as the miracle. Each day becomes a sacred dance. You rise in the morning not to chase, but to receive. You walk through your day, not with resistance, but with allowance. You no longer question if good things are coming. You know they are. You no longer count hours or measure progress. You simply dwell in the end, and let the law do its perfect work. And oh, how precise that law is. It misses nothing. Every detail imagined in faith finds its match in form. Every assumption held with feeling finds its expression in the world. Not sometimes, not for the few, always, and for all who dare to believe. But belief is not a matter of intellect. It is a matter of embodiment. You cannot think your way into a miracle. You must feel your way there. You must enter the state with such vividness, such devotion, such inner certainty, that the outer world must yield to your inner truth. You will begin to see the world differently, not as a place of resistance, but of reflection, not as a place of testing, but of mirroring. You will bless what others curse. You will thank what others fear, because you will know this too is a shadow of my past assumption, and I have assumed something new. And so you do not fight the old. You do not argue with what was. You simply turn your attention inward and assume again. You return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and again the world begins to shift. You do not need to know how. That is not your concern. The how belongs to the law. Your only task is to live as though it is done, to act as though it is finished, to walk as though you have already received. This is the essence of faith, and faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you drop the questions, you drop the doubts, you stop asking when, and start declaring now. You stop checking for signs and start being the sign. You stop waiting for evidence, and start creating it from within. The more you persist, the faster it comes, not because you forced it, but because you became it. You became the thing you sought, and in becoming, you drew it near. It's never been about waiting for a miracle. It's about awakening to the truth, that the miracle is already within you, quietly pulsing, patiently waiting for you to see, to feel, to know. Once you truly know, you cannot unknow. Once you've dwelled in the feeling of the miracle fulfilled, walked in it, breathed in it, spoken from it, it becomes part of your being. It fuses with your identity. You stop trying to manifest and start living manifested. The line between imagination and reality dissolves, because you see that imagination is reality in its seed form. There will still be moments when the old world beckons, when appearances whisper, it isn't working, but you will not be moved. Not because you ignore reality, but because you've learned the deeper reality. What is seen is temporary. What is unseen is eternal. The outer is simply a mirror, and when you shift within, the mirror must follow. It cannot resist. So you persist, not with strain, but with ease, not with tension, but with delight. For now you understand that persistence in assumption is the secret, not a scattered wish here and a doubtful thought there, but a steady, radiant knowing. The knowing that says, this is who I am now, this is my truth, and all of life must conform to it. You become like the sun, radiating effortlessly, asking for nothing, but giving light to all. You no longer chase desires, because you realize that everything is drawn to you by the energy you carry. You begin to feel a deep calm, a peace that surpasses understanding, because you are no longer separate from what you want. You are one with it. Then something extraordinary begins to happen. You fall in love with your imagination. You treasure your inner world more than the outer, not because the outer is bad, but because you now see it as the echo, the canvas, the reflection. The real work is done in silence, in stillness, in the sacred chamber of your own consciousness. In that sacred space, you return each day, not to fix but to remember, to feel again the joy of already being, to step into the scene of your fulfilled desire, and to rest in it. This is the Sabbath. This is the true rest, not the cessation of activity, but the stillness of knowing it is done. You walk differently in the world. You speak differently. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer seek validation. You no longer plead with life.
You move with a soft power, a quiet certainty that needs no defense. You know who you are. You know what you've claimed. And you know the law is fulfilling it even now. So you allow, you receive, you bless, you give thanks before the harvest. Because you have already seen the seeds blossom in your mind's eye. You no longer wait to rejoice. You rejoice now, in the invisible. And in doing so you make it visible. You become the embodiment of the fulfilled desire. Your joy is no longer conditional. It is no longer delayed. You celebrate in advance, not out of pretense, but out of truth. Because to you it is already done. It has already happened in the only place that matters in consciousness. And what is accepted in consciousness must express itself. It must. There is no exception. Others may look and say, but nothing has changed. And you will say nothing in return. Because you understand. They are only seeing the past. They are only seeing the past. They are observing the echo. While you are dwelling in the cause, you will not argue. You will not convince. You will remain still in your knowing. Unshaken. Because you have assumed the state. And you have made it your home. In this sacred dwelling, everything that once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Synchronicities increase. Coincidences multiply. You meet the right people. Walk through the right doors. Hear the exact words you needed at the perfect time. But these no longer surprise you. You do not gasp in wonder. You nod gently. Smile quietly. Of course it happened. Of course it showed up. How could it not? You now live in a world that responds to you. Not because you are special, but because you finally stopped resisting your own power. You finally accepted your inheritance. You stopped asking for what was already given, and began living as if it was so. Now your life becomes a demonstration, not to impress others, but to reveal what is possible. You are a living witness to the truth that imagination creates reality, that assumption governs all, that miracles are the result of inner alignment, and your very presence becomes permission for others to believe, to imagine, to awaken. You radiate an energy that speaks louder than words. It is done. Not just one desire, not one miracle, but a life of miracles, a life where everything flows. Because you are no longer pushing against the current. You are the current, and still you go deeper. You refine your inner world. You polish the lens of imagination. You remain faithful not because you need to be, but because it is your joy to be. You love the quiet moments, where you imagine the best, not to get something, but because it feels good to dwell there, because it feels like home. And so you return again and again, to the silence within. You close your eyes and enter the scene. You feel the thing you desire, not as something far off, but as something now. You let it fill you, move through you, become you. And then you open your eyes, not to check if it worked, but to carry that feeling into the day. You do this not once, not twice, but as a way of being. It becomes as natural to you as breathing. You no longer think in terms of whether the miracle will happen. You assume it already has. You no longer hope. You no longer wish. You know. And in that knowing, you are free. You stop measuring time, because you've stepped outside of it. The clock loses its power over you. Days pass, and you remain unmoved. Not because you are numb, but because you live from the end. Whether the miracle arrives today, or tomorrow, or a month from now, is irrelevant. For in your inner world it has already occurred. And that is the only place where creation begins. You walk through the world with a softness in your eyes, and a strength in your step. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer cling. You release. You trust not blindly, but deliberately. Because trust is now your nature. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, known too clearly, that this law, this principle of assumption, is eternal, infallible, unchanging. So you bless the delay. You honor the unfolding. You no longer rush the flower to bloom, because you know the seed is good. You planted it in faith, and now you let the invisible forces of life do their perfect work. And all the while, you remain in the state of the wish fulfilled. You rehearse the joy. You dwell in the feeling. You let it saturate your every word, every gesture, every thought. The world begins to bow, not to you as a person, but to the consciousness you have embodied. Everything begins to arrange itself, not through force or strategy, but through resonance. You have become magnetic, not because of anything you did outwardly, but because you tuned yourself inwardly to the frequency of fulfillment. You are the cause. The world is the effect. You are the source. The reflection is secondary. You no longer need signs to believe. You believe, and the signs follow. You no longer seek proof. You are the proof, and the world bends to match your knowing. Others begin to wonder how you do it, how things seem to align for you, how life opens in your favor. And you could explain, you could teach, but even if you said nothing, they would feel it, because your very being is a transmission. You are no longer trying to manifest miracles. You are a living, breathing miracle. And miracles flow from you, effortlessly, endlessly. And so I leave you with this truth. A truth not to merely ponder, but to live. Act as if you are a magnet to miracles. And you will become one. Not because the world changes first, but because you do. Because you dare to feel what others call foolish, to assume what others call impossible, and to live from the end, while others remain in the waiting room of life. You are not here to hope. You are here to know. You are not here to chase. You are here to attract. You are not here to be a victim of fate. You are here to command your reality through the divine gift of imagination. This is not a technique. It is a way of being, a return to your truest self, the one who no longer begs, no longer pleads, but assumes, and in assuming creates. You are not separate from the miracle. You are the miracle in motion. Live from that, feel from that, assume that, and watch as your entire world bows to the power within you. It is done.